If you offer low value, nobody wants to pay a price for low value. If you offer high value, many people are willing to pay a high price, a premium price for high value. All right, guys, welcome to the Medical Entrepreneur Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about how to follow the pathway to premium pricing. For a lot of us as medical entrepreneurs, we've been working in a healthcare system that essentially is controlled by the government. The government actually sets the price essentially through Medicare, and then that price is then used in all private insurances, either as a percentage above that or smaller than that. And basically, our income is essentially determined by an outside factor to ourselves. One of the first things that we have to do as medical entrepreneurs is to escape that broken mainstream medical system. Because as you can see, in the last few years, you've had inflation raging at somewhere between 10 to 15%, while you've had no increase in pay when reimbursement from Medicare, from Blue Cross Blue Shield, from United Healthcare, or any of those guys. So essentially, in the last 2 years, if you have been practicing medicine or have had a clinic, you essentially have received a 30% pay cut. The amount of money you received maybe has not changed, maybe even went up a little bit, but it likely didn't keep pace with inflation. And that's why many people that are working in the healthcare space are feeling the pressure. They seem like they're working harder and harder, but at the end of the day, there's less to take home. The reason why this is happening is because of inflation. And until you're able to break free of the mainstream medical system and have your own business and be able to set your own prices, you'll always be subject to whatever someone else thinks you're worth. And big hint or spoiler alert here, they're not going to pay you what you're worth. So that's why you have to break free and start your own business, start your own journey as a medical entrepreneur. So today what we're going to talk about is how do we follow the pathway to premium pricing? And for many medical entrepreneurs, it's very difficult for them to be comfortable with charging prices, because they've always been told that the price is set by the insurance company, price is set by the hospital, price is set by somebody else. They themselves many times don't know how to set prices or even ask for money from patients. Sometimes they even say it feels wrong to ask for money. So we're going to follow today the pathway to premium price. And we're going to start off by discussing what's happening economically with the country of the United States. If you haven't been aware, for probably the last 30 years, there's been a consistent, steady destruction of what's called the middle class. America was very unique compared to most of the other countries in the world in the sense that it had a very large middle class. Most countries have rich people and a lot of poor people with a very small middle class. For a long time, the United States has had this beautifully large middle class. And unfortunately, due to a lot of economic forces and a lot of governmental forces, basically the middle class has continued to shrink over and over. And what you have most recently is a massive acceleration in the destruction of the middle class, with basically people are basically getting divided. You're either going to be rich and you keep getting richer, or you're going to be poor and you're going to keep getting poorer. But there's not that many people in the middle anymore. And so if you look at a lot of the data that's out there, you'll see that basically since 1970, middle class household incomes have not climbed nearly as much as upper household incomes. So basically those people who were making more money in the 70s are now, from a family point of view, are actually richer now than they ever have been, because they've actually been making more and more money because they understand how to make money. Those people who don't understand how to make money, who allow other people to make the decisions on money for them, or are part of systems that control how much money they're allowed to make, for example, mainstream medical system, those people are getting slowly but surely eroded away. So what we can see is that basically from 1970 to 2020, there's been a pretty significant change in income. The percent change in income of the upper class has gone up by 69%. The percent change in the middle class has gone up only by 50%, and the percent change of the lower income has only gone up by 45%. So the share of the aggregate U.S. household income held by the middle class has basically fallen steadily since 1970. And why this is important is because basically when you start to realize that you're getting essentially a bifurcation or a separation of the two classes, you have people that are very poor, and they're going to be likely dependent on government assistance, government insurance, these kind of things. And you have people that are very, very wealthy on the other end, but you have very, very little people in the middle. And so you need to realize that for a lot of your practices, you should consider targeting them to the upper class only, because the lower class will be served likely by government subsidies, Medicare, Medicaid, these kind of things. And as you can see from that, if you look at, if you participate in any kind of Medicaid program, God bless you, you do a lot of work for very, very little bit of pay, right? So the bottom line here is middle class will continue to lose ground. Rich are going to get richer, poor are going to be poor. And so we need to basically position ourselves to take advantage of the kind of this bifurcation and make sure that we can sell to people who can have better purchasing power and basically position ourselves to basically have good margins in our business so our businesses can grow and become healthy. So if you kind of there's two ways to look at pricing, right? A lot of people, think, oh, well, if I had a company, what kind of company would it be? And you got to ask yourself, if for your practice, for your medical entrepreneur business, if you had to be one of the two companies, which one would you want to be and why? And so would you want to be a Walmart, who has very, very large volumes? You sell things at very, very steep discounts. The entire chain of Walmart runs on a 3% margin. That means of all the money that comes in, Walmart itself only keeps 3% of it. So 97% of it goes back to the cost of the goods, et cetera, the employees, all that kind of stuff. So it only keeps 3% of it. Or do you want to be like Louis Vuitton? Much more exclusive. Only certain people can afford Louis Vuitton. It's almost a status symbol to have a Louis Vuitton. I mean, it really is. And basically, it's very exclusive, high-end service, high-quality kind of thing. So you can look at it as like, do you want to sell to more people for less money, realizing you have many, many transactions? Or do you want to sell to less people for a lot more money, have fewer transactions, fewer people running through your system, but make more money per person? And what I tell you is that, everybody's choice is different. But from a business point of view, I would say that Louis Vuitton is significantly more valuable than a Walmart. And you have to ask yourself, what kind of practice do you want? Do you want to have a Walmart practice? That would be like a Medicaid practice. Or do you want to have a Louis Vuitton practice, which would be a private practice that charges cash? Just to give you some examples of real people that have actually done this successfully, there was a dentist named Dr. Donna Galante. And basically, she was in an area of California, and she was an Invisalign dentist. So she was a dentist who did a lot of Invisalign. That was kind of her thing. As Invisalign kind of rolled out throughout the country, all of a sudden, every dentist around her was offering Invisalign. And so what happened is, as the dentists came in, they all started offering Invisalign. They all started to do price wars. So each of them would undercut the other, offering the Invisalign service at a lower and lower price. And then Dr. Galante, who had been there from the beginning, said, hey, I don't want to be part of this, because she realized a simple concept. If you're not the cheapest person in the market, there's no point in being second best, right? So if you can't be the lowest price leader in the market, being the second lowest price has no value. And so basically what she did instead is she doubled her price. So while everybody else was cutting prices, she actually increased her price. And a weird thing happened. She actually got more patients. She actually doubled the number of patients she had coming into her location, and then went on to open multiple locations. The other competitors that were actually cutting and doing the price cutting, they actually went out of business, because what they failed to realize is that even though they might have gotten a few more customers by cutting that price, they were also cutting their margin or their profit on it, until such time as basically they were doing the work of the Invisalign for free just to get people in. And then they realize, like, whoa, I still got to pay staff. I still got to pay overhead. So then they're basically paying to have customers come in. And that doesn't work very well. So just another example of how important it is to basically position yourself correctly in the market. I'd also like to show you an example here. Here's a picture of a jar of honey. And this jar of honey is called Sue Bee honey. This is available from Walmart. Now we're talking about them. And is a 24-ounce jar of honey for $6.82, which equivalates to about 28.4 cents an ounce. And then here's a picture of this honey sampler, which is made by a private company. And they sell 3 of these honey samplers for $21.50 for a set of 3, roughly $7.16 each jar, or $2.38 per ounce. So what that means is that the honey from the plastic jar that you see in Walmart that looks like a bear is 28.4 cents. The honey that's from a sampler that's sold in an exclusive boutique is 838% higher in price. But as you may imagine, Why does that work? Why is it possible that you can have something that costs the consumer 838% more? Well, the reason why is that the honey sampler has specific uses. There's honey for meat. There's honey for tea. There's honey for, different thing for ribs, honey for beef. So they have their honey specified different locations and how they work. But it goes to show you that you have the same thing that you're selling, but the packaging is different and the pricing is different. And so it just goes to show you that so often, in our medical practices, we're so focused on what everybody else is doing. A lot of times when I talk to other physicians or chiropractors or nurse practitioners, they always say, well, my competition is doing X, Y, and Z, and I can't go higher than that because they're charging this, and if I go higher, then people won't buy. The reality is that every day there are people buying premium products in your market. And in fact, when you actually increase your prices, what happens is that you actually decrease the amount of low quality customers that come into your business. Take, for example, Louis Vuitton. If you have to choose a customer from Walmart versus a customer from Louis Vuitton, which one would you prefer to have as a customer for life? I think most people would prefer the customer for Louis Vuitton because the person who can afford a $5,000 purse is somebody who appreciates quality, is willing to pay what it's worth, somebody who appreciates detail-oriented things, and likely somebody who has a higher income. The person from Walmart, depending on who you get, could be a lot of different people, but depending on who you get, is somebody who's looking for a bargain basement price, right? They're looking for the cheapest price. That's why they're willing to deal with the Walmart crowds and that kind of thing. And just so they can save a little bit of money. And maybe their main thing is about convenience. How do you get to a premium price for your medical practice? Well, there's several different ways that you can do it. One is it depends on your location. So where you offer your medical services, depending on where they are location-wise and what they're related to, can change the way that you can charge for their price. So for example, if you are doing a treatment for anybody who has back pain, that is a very generic audience, right? But if you're doing a treatment for golfers who have a hitch in their back and it affects their swing, that's a much closer niche. So because the location of your service is at a different place than where everybody else is saying, hey, I'll treat your back pain. And you're saying, hey, I'm going to treat your back pain as it relates to your golf swing so you can get a better golf swing. Now you have a different product and it's worth a higher premium. The other thing that you can do is you can change your packaging. And this is something that we don't do very well in medicine, right? In medicine, so often people come in, especially for, insurance-based or mainstream medicine, you have offices that are very bland. They're somewhat sterile appearing. Many times the patients are referred to by number, not by name. Somewhat of a dehumanizing environment. I know, for example, when COVID happened, so many patients left the mainstream medical system because they got tired of being treated poorly by practitioners. If they didn't have the exact same viewpoints as the practitioner, many of them were banned from services. Many of them were not allowed to come in. They were told, different things. And so the packaging around your service is so, so important. How do you treat somebody when they come into your practice? What does your practice look like? When you offer someone a medical treatment, for example, a procedure, do they come home with anything? Is there a care package that they have? Recently, we were doing a procedure just today, and one of the things that we do for all of our patients who receive this procedure is when they go to leave, we have a box that they take with them, and in the box is instructions. It has some equipment that they can use to help them improve their performance after the procedure, and these kind of things. This is different packaging than they would get anywhere else. If they were to go to, say, a mainstream medicine doctor to get the same treatment, they wouldn't get any of that. They would be seen in probably 15 minutes or less because that's what you have to do to make those numbers work, and their quality of procedure will be less. Their quality of time with the staff, the quality of time with the physician would be so much less as well. The next thing we want to talk about is niche. So often in medicine, we think all of our procedures, all of our therapies apply to everybody who could possibly have them. And while that may be the case for some procedures, you can also argue that you can niche these down. So for example, if you treat someone with knee pain, what is the difference between treating everybody who has knee pain and people that are mountain bikers with knee pain. You see, the mountain biker likely has a different type of knee pain from mountain biking, assumably. And so you can offer a different type of service for that person. If you're treating, as an example before with location, you can treat golfers, right? So if you treat golfers versus everybody else, because you have a niche, whenever you niche down a service or product, you're able to charge more for it because the value of it is higher. I'll give you an example that we can use for all of us here. Imagine I have a time management course, and it's a time management course for everybody. Now, if I say, hey, here's a time management course, it's worth $20. Now I say, take the same time management course, and I say, oh, it's time management course for doctors. Well, because it's designed for doctors, and we know doctors have perhaps a busier schedule, they have other things that they're dealing with, then that's a higher value or higher perceived value of that product because it is actually for a niche. Now, if I take the same thing, I say, okay, I have a time management course for anesthesiologists, which are a subset of doctors, right? Now, that's even a smaller niche. And because it's for anesthesiologists, there might be some modifications we make to it that kind of take into account the anesthesiology lifestyle. And that would even have an even higher premium because it is more niche down. So any service that you offer to the market, I'd like for you to think about how can you niche it down? How can you take your service and make it more niche for a small audience? And finally, number 4, one of the best things you can do for increasing price and getting the pathway to premium prices is to make something exclusive. Only offer so many of them. And a lot of times people in medicine think, oh, it's so difficult because, I offer service. Anybody can walk in and get it. Any patient can come in. I want to treat everybody. The reality is that there's only so much time in the day. There's only so many resources you have. There's only so much OR time you have. There's only so much room you have in your clinic. Is there a way that you can make an exclusive experience for just a few people? Is there a way that you can take one of your services? Let's say, let's take an example. Like for example, let's do something that's so bland and generic, right? So you could have somebody doing a trigger point injection, common procedure done by family practice, pain management, you name it, orthopedic, everybody does this, right? They inject a muscle with a needle, put a little, maybe an anesthetic and perhaps even a steroid in it, depending on what you're doing. And it helps relax that muscle, right? So that is a generic service, and its value is essentially set by the government, which is Medicare. And that value is fairly low. I think it's under $20 now. So depending on how many points you inject. Now, could you make that more exclusive? Could you do a treatment where you did a trigger point injection along with a Tibetan healing bowl treatment? Now, maybe for most people, they're not familiar with Tibetan healing bowls, but for some people, they really believe strongly in them. And I'll tell you that, it's at least an interesting and unique experience. So is it possible you could take one of your services and add a little exclusivity and say, hey, I'm only going to allow 3 people to get the service. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take you to a room. It's going to be dark. We're going to give you a massage. We're going to inject all your trigger points. We're going to do Tibetan healing bowl. We're going to do some cupping. And then basically now we have a whole new service, and the thing is only good for 3 people. But the price is much higher because it's exclusive. Do you see how you can add anything? Like the only thing limiting you to premium pricing really is your creativity. So the question is going to be, what else can you do to help yourself increase your prices? Because the way that things are going is that we have inflation raging at a very, very high rate. Despite whatever the government says, you can look at the price of food, you can look at the price of fuel, you look at the price of your malpractice insurance, you can look at the price of your employee cost, you look at anything, you see that basically more and more inflation is happening. So you have to have the ability to increase your prices in order for your business to survive. And as a medical entrepreneur, it is your job to help people. It is your job to deliver high quality services. And part of that is to make sure that your business has enough margin to operate so you can get the best employees who deliver the best services to your patients. So you can get the necessary tools, the best, latest technology to offer the best services to your patient. If you're a practice that is breaking even, if you're a practice that is, underwater, you're not going to do a good job. And in medicine, there's a lot of people who think, poverty mindset, think scarcity mindset. They think, oh man, if a doctor's making money off somebody, that's bad, right? No, your job is to actually make money off your patients because you're offering them good value. Now, if you don't offer them good value, then it's bad for you to take money for not offering value. That's wrong. However, Money comes to you when you offer good value to others. So the more value that you can offer to someone, the more money will come to you. The better your practice will do, the more it will grow. And as it grows, you'll also be able to grow. You'll get better employees, you'll get better technology, you can offer better services, and it becomes this beautiful virtuous cycle. If you are stuck, if you are, a chiropractor and you're saying, look, I appreciate it, Dr. Sewell, I appreciate everything you're saying, but like, hey, I do back adjustments, and right down the road are 3 more chiropractors that do back adjustments. One of the fastest ways out of being a quote commodity, meaning being the same as everybody else, is how you specifically apply your service. So we're going to give an example of a restaurant. If you have a restaurant, for example, and the restaurant blocks off Friday and Saturday and makes it for adults only for romantic dinners, and then on Sunday, it transforms into a sports zone for football, and then on Wednesday, it transforms into a family night, and then every once a month, it becomes a wine club meeting. Do you see how the same restaurant, the same commodity service, has actually used the same service for specific applications and has transformed their business? So for a chiropractor who's offering adjustments, is there a way that you can offer adjustments for a sports team and realize like these are adjustments for football players? Is there a way that you can offer adjustments for busy executives? You're dealing with a high level of pressure, you're dealing with a high level of stress. Is there a way that you can take your service, which is a commodity, everybody does, and can you use it to in a specific application to solve a specific problem for someone? Because if you can, that is the fastest way out of being a commodity and the fastest way to increase how much you charge for your prices, which in the end helps everybody. There's also another concept I wanted to speak about, which is something that I've been studying for about 20 years. And I'll say it's something that's always been it's been amazing to me to find out. But basically, even a mentor of mine said that he'd been studying this his entire life, and he never truly saw how amazing this concept is. And it's a concept called price elasticity. And what price elasticity is the change in price. Like as you increase your prices, you would normally think that as you increase your prices, demand goes down, right? Like according to basic economics, as the price increases, less and less people can afford it, so less people buy it, and then therefore the demand decreases. The elasticity part is basically saying, hey, I increase my price, but the demand doesn't decrease. And I'll tell you, this happens very, very often. So one of the things that just consistently blows my mind is I've seen several people that are medical entrepreneurs, people that are in our groups, people that talk to us, and I will tell them, hey, increase your price by 10%. Just do it, And they come back and they say, usually before they do, they say, man, I don't know if I can do that. People are not going to pay. They're going to say, why is it 10% more today than it was before? I don't want to pay that. Why are you increasing your prices? And then when they actually do it, the first thing they do is they come back and they say, nobody even said anything. And this is true. I've actually done an increase in prices up to 30% without anybody even asking or blinking an eye, right? So the thing that you have to realize is that there's a thing called price elasticity. And so many times we think that people really care about the price, like the price is the main driver for things. The truth is that price is not the main driver for things. In fact, according to research, only 10% of the market is really price sensitive. 90% of the market is not price sensitive. They may give an excuse during the buying cycle and say, oh, price is an issue. But the reality is price is not the issue. The value you're offering is the issue. If you offer low value, nobody wants to pay a price for low value. If you offer high value, many people are willing to pay a high price, a premium price for high value. So just to recap, basically the pathway to premium pricing includes the location of the sale, like when you do, like where is your product being used, differentiating your packaging, how do you change your packaging around your product or service, how you can use a niche, like how can you niche your product down, and then how can you make your product more exclusive. The fastest way out of being a commodity, if you're an OB-GYN and you're surrounded by other OB-GYNs and you're looking to charge cash for your procedures, you're going to do maybe some hormones. The best thing you can do is go and use a specific application. I'll give you an example of one of our students who has done this. This is actually a nurse practitioner and she does aesthetics. One of the things that she was able to do is to niche down into women who are basically at a stage of their life which are empty nesters, right? So this is when the children leave the house and this kind of thing. So what she does is she actually hosts a monthly meeting for women who've had their children recently leave the house, because there's a lot of things that happen. One of the things that happens, and actually she advertises for this, is that they will actually have a deafening silence. So normally, their entire life is dedicated to raising these children, making sure they get to school on time, making sure they're okay, doing all this kind of stuff. And then when they move out, it's just all of a sudden there's nobody to care for anymore. It's like, whoa, what happened? All this free time appears, right? And for a lot of people, that can even cause depression. So she helps those people with that. And part of it is also then teaching them to start taking care of themselves, which works perfectly for her aesthetics practice, because she offers those treatments to allow those women to take care of themselves, to feel better about themselves, to get the things done that they need to do to feel more confident and happier about their life, right? So you can always change your specific application, change your niche, and then change your business, change your life. So medical entrepreneurs, think about, how do you get to the pathway to premium pricing? How can you increase your prices to offer more value to your patients, to your customers? How can you make your business and practice grow? And remember, one vision, one purpose, freedom through prosperity.